Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast. This is our spoilers review of You, Season 2. I'm your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. Joining me is our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, to review this season of TV as we do all of our television reviews on the 4Bro4 Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and any theories or questions going forward. Now, before we get started, Cycli, you and I think Banner's catching up on the show. We're the only ones on the pod that are diehard You fans. You got me turned on to it. Before we review Season 2, what were your thoughts on Season 1, which was like a huge surprise, I think, for Netflix?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the only reason I watched Season 1 was I think I was sitting on Netflix. I had a couple days off work. And, you know, they have those random previews that pop up. I had no idea what the show was. And I was like, that looks interesting. I got a couple days to kill. I think the wife was out of town. And so I just put it on. I didn't do any due diligence. I had no idea what it was about. So, you know, color me surprised. It was fantastic. And then I think I was texting you immediately like, bro, what the hell is this show? Put it on. And then I had no idea when it ended. I did like some research about it. It was on Lifetime. You know, I thought it was a Netflix original. I had it made a lot more sense when I was looking back on how the editing was. They weren't really cussing and doing some things, but I fell in love from the second I started watching it. It's absolutely over the top. It's almost like a soap opera, but it's just like you can't take your eyes off. What do you think?
Lifetime really dropped the ball by losing this.
Yeah.
And you can feel it that like it's definitely a Netflix show in Season 2 because I think the amount of times they say fuck is like they're like, all right, let's get our monies. Let's get our money.
We're celebrating it.
I agree with pretty much all that. I am so drawn into the show and like I'm obsessed with it in the way that Joe Goldberg is obsessed with any woman who looks at him. I can't get enough of this. And this is like the perfect binge type show. I know that people have talked a lot about will Disney Plus's existence change how Netflix releases their shows. But this is one of those shows, and maybe it's for better or worse, but it creates buzz where you have to watch it like the first week. Otherwise, you're going to miss it's going to be spoiled for you.
The entire internet's talking about it.
Right.
You know.
And I guess one bad thing for Netflix is if it's a bingeable show, that conversation takes place over 2 weeks, where it's like something like The Mandalorian happens over 2 months.
Sure. Yeah.
But we can get into that another time. All right, our first category is the acting and cast. So, Penn Badgley returns as Joe, and I gotta say before we get into this guy is like a very well-kept secret in Hollywood. Because was he on the OC or Gossip Girl?
Gossip Girl.
Okay, I think just in my head I was like, oh, he's just like some teeny bopper actor. He is really fucking good in this, man. Like he's really good as Joe. I want to see him in something else. Like he can play creepy, he can play endearing. Those work really well together. So he was like the main returning character in this. But what did you think about him and then any of the newcomers that we had?
What I think about it is he does such a good job of playing. He genuinely thinks he's a good guy, right? Like I mean, he's obviously a sociopath, but he does such a good job of literally portraying a guy who fully believes deep down that he is the good guy in the story, that he is there to fix everyone, even though, I mean, he is as evil as it gets. And I buy it every time he's on the screen. You can't help. Everyone knows he's a horrible person, but you're still kind of.
I know you root for him. Well, he does enough things that are altruistic or well-intentioned, specifically for kids, where you're like, all right, I see the good in him.
Yeah, he does it with Paco in Season 1, where you get Ellie in Season 2. And you're just like, oh, he's so caring, and then I accidentally murdered someone again. Oh, oops! And you're just
I find myself when people get murdered, I'm like that was kind of your fault. You made Joe do this.
The way the show portrays murder, it makes it seem like everyone is constantly murdering someone accidentally all the time.
Right.
But I actually absolutely agree with him. With you. I think he's a fantastic actor. I really haven't seen him in too much other stuff. I don't know how big his range is. But what he portrays on the show, he absolutely, does a fantastic job.
It's weird because Michael C. Hall, there's a lot of allusions to Dexter, which I'm sure we'll get into. He was a guy that I thought was going to have a massive movie career, and that just has never materialized. So maybe he's so pigeonholed or typecast in this role, but I don't watch Gossip Girl, but I'm assuming this character is pretty different from the character he played on that show.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. I'm wondering if the romantic side of Joe is similar to what he was on Gossip Girl. But but Joe can give a look that is absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just like he's a guy with good looks and charm. Like he absolutely has that look. Like I will fucking kill you.
And he
And
gives it
my favorite thing about him is when he puts that damn hat on, he thinks he's invisible.
Oh my gosh. And anyone who sells those hats, just plain denim, you have to know you're selling it to someone who has bad intentions.
Yeah. How about everyone else for you?
So Victoria Pedretti, who played Love,
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was pretty good in this, especially when her character had obviously the big twist towards the end. That really, really worked for me. There were times where she was just like a little over emotional early on, but now you kind of see why. And obviously her family has a lot of baggage, and she's very
She's a little cuckoo. So she played a character in The Haunting of Hill House, and I think I told you about that, which is an unbelievable show as well. I think one of Netflix's best originals. Definitely recommend it. But her character in that show actually has a twin brother who is an addict and comes from a broken family. So it was kind of funny to see her. Yeah, it was. I mean, the role that makes it sound really obvious, but to those who watch both shows, it's very different in a way. But she does do a good job of really playing the dramatic family character. I think sometimes she can be a little over the top. I think she just has really big eyes. And so when she has those like sad puppy dog eyes, it's like really thrown in your face.
When he was tripping on acid and her eyes were getting bigger, I was like, at what point is he tripping balls, and at what point are these?
Those her eyes. Yeah. So I mean, if you haven't watched The Haunting of Hill House out there, put it on. Even though it's not Halloween time, it is a great family. It is scary, but it's about a family dynamic that's a really good story overall. I wanted to throw really fast. Amber Childress, she plays Candace. We got a little bit of Candace this season. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. I am not the biggest fan of her acting ability. I think they were kind of pigeonholed in creating the way season 1 ended by having her make that appearance at the last second shock. I don't think that actress was ever intended to be a major character. I think they just kind of used whoever to play his ex-girlfriend, like to have a good backstory. And giving her a kind of main role this season showed that she didn't really have that much range, in my opinion. Anytime she was in a scene, I kind of felt like she was dragging it down a little bit. I appreciate her character, what her character represented, but I think they weren't really prepared when they were filming season 1 for Candace to have a major storyline in season 2.
And I think it speaks to how strong the story was in season 2, that because the way season 1 works, you're like, dude, the most interesting part of season 2 has got to be Candace. But they wrote such strong characters and an arc with him moving to LA that when she showed up, I was like, I'm actually not as interested in this as I thought I'd be, because what's going on here with the Quinns is so intriguing to me. I'd much rather focus on that. But I think, again, that's a strength, I think, to what they did. So luckily they didn't have to lean as heavily on her, especially towards the end. Obviously Chris D'Elia plays Henderson. I'm a big fan of his stand-up comedy. It took me out of the show a little bit, but he played a stand-up comic as well. So that worked pretty well for me. And then I thought Jenna Ortega as Ellie was really, really good. Kid actors,
absolutely,
and I always say this, are tough to find, especially in TV. And she was actually one of the stronger actors in this. I think she was better than James Scully, who played 40, and Carmela Zumbada, who played Delilah. I think she was better than both of them in this season.
I thought what was interesting about Jenna Ortega was, I think she's 15 years old in the show. I think in real life when they were filming, she was 16. I'm glad they didn't get some really much older actress that always happens in Hollywood to play a little kid. She was very, I absolutely agree. I think she actually stole the show every time she was in a scene. Yeah. I really enjoyed her character. I really enjoyed Carmela Zumbada as Delilah as well. Acting wise, you're right. Jenna Ortega was a little better, but the dynamic that they had as sisters really showed through on screen. I really bought into their dynamic, and they became two of my favorite characters, honestly. To the point to where, again, spoilers, the ending of episode 8, I literally yelled at the TV when they showed Delilah's dead body. I was so upset.
I was fucking pissed too. And then one quick shout out, Robin Lord Taylor, who played quote unquote Will Bettelheim.
I loved him. Yeah,
Penguin. He plays the Penguin in Gotham. So it was good to see him in a role where he wasn't like so over the top. And actually, we'll get into best scene because he's involved in that for me.
It took me the second he's in when he's in the second. I think they show him at the very end of that first episode. I was like, "Who is that guy? I know that guy." And then I was like, "Oh wait, that's the fucking Penguin."
Yeah, it's weird to see him not with like that weird comb over and like
yeah. I loved his character.
He was good. All right, on to the story and the plot. So Candace returns. Joe flees to L.A. He meets Love and 40 Quinn. Kansas obviously follows him or somehow in a weird way tracks him down and uses 40 and has sex with him a lot to get to Joe. And then she basically threatens to out Joe. She does. The murder trail gets messy as it does in season 1, and it all ends and culminates with what we'll get into probably mainly in theories and questions, with 40 dying at the hands of the police and a pregnant Love and Joe moving out to the LA suburbs. So what did you think of where the story took us in season 2? Obviously new locale, mostly new characters, but kind of the same sort of feel to the narrative through line of Joe wants to do the right thing, but he just keeps accidentally killing everyone.
So yeah, I think season 2, I'm going to sit there and say this, I actually like season 2 more than season 1. I thought the story overall was kind of predictable in the sense that, he's going to keep doing what he's doing. It's like watching the second season of Dexter. Dexter, it's not just going to take a turn. He's going to keep killing people, right? Like you just buy into that kind of concept. He's going to fall in love with someone and get overly obsessed. I think when season 1 ended, I didn't realize he had actually attempted to murder Candace. I thought she straight up just did leave him for Italy. So I didn't realize that the season 2 was going to be her hunting him in a sort of way. So him moving to LA kind of gave us a new fresh feel. It wasn't exactly repetitive as we got in season 1. I really did enjoy the story overall. I thought there were better characters in season 2 than there were in season 1. I enjoyed the side characters much more, even though what I loved about this season, they portrayed LA so accurately. It made me cringe because I really hate LA. If you've never been to LA, what they did to those characters is exactly true.
I was worried at first because I loved the New York dynamic for the first one, and I get that's the point, right? As Joe's like, where's the last place Candace would think I would go?
Yeah.
Because he hates LA, but I thought that all, like you said, worked really well in terms of putting him in a place where he's like so frustrated.
Absolutely. Well, that's what's interesting. Like I love New York, kind of like idealism better, but I didn't like the character. Right? Like you're not supposed to like Peach, and her friends were so ridiculous and over the top. And Beck, in all honesty, wasn't that interesting. If you really break it down, not to take away from the character or the actress or just the in general character of Guinevere Beck. But even though LA personality I hate more, I enjoyed their characters. I enjoyed the dynamic of Ellie and Delilah. I enjoyed Love's friends. And they enjoyed Will Bettelheim.
40 felt like he was like, there's probably thousands of those people in LA. Like,
oh my God. Everyone thinks they're one script away from making it big or making a name for themselves. I think there were, I personally didn't really see the twist coming. I knew there was going to be some sort of twist. I thought it was going to be Candace setting him up for murder and kill Delilah. But the story overall felt like what makes you great is we just accept it for what it is, right? It's a guilty pleasure soap opera show. It's extreme. The plot's supposed to be completely stretching your imagination, and yet they sell it in such a way that you are just bought in from episode to episode. And I really did enjoy the story. I enjoyed the character development. I enjoyed watching the Quinn family. As a whole, I just was a big fan of the story. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it moved pretty quickly. Like the first 2, maybe not even 3, probably the first 2 episodes set up, all right, where he's at, who are the established characters. When is he doesn't meet Love at all in the first episode, does he?
He meets her, but
at the very end.
Nothing. Yeah.
Okay, so
they do the Peach joke.
The way that episode 1 set up, I actually thought Calvin was going to be a bigger character than he ended up being, but his dynamic outside of work or with the Quinns is really just set to Delilah and Ellie. And the Will Bettelheim character in and of itself was just a really interesting wrinkle. And we'll get into this in Best Scene, but like the role that he played throughout the series, I think there were enough people in this that were interesting to where you said, I really don't know how this is going to work with them and Joe. Because there's always a certain kill count. People close to Joe have to die. It's just like how he operates.
And it was rough and fresh air that he didn't kill Will, honestly.
Which is what's so cool about their dynamic is it subverts all your expectations for what you think. And Joe, it shows he's getting a little bit better, which we know New Year's resolutions we all need to improve. He's getting a little bit better at how he keeps people in that glass cage. And
how did he get the glass cage from New York to LA? Can we talk about that?
That's probably the one thing in here where I'm like, huh? He explains it really briefly, like took me hours to put it together. I was like, oh, dude, months, days. Doesn't make sense.
You shipped it?
Yeah, overall the story, dude, it's so compelling, and it's like a roller coaster. Like it speeds up more and more as the season goes on. So like I kind of methodically, quote unquote, watched the first 3 episodes probably over 2 days, and then the last 7 I was texting you. I was watching like 4 a day.
Yeah,
I finished the last 7 episodes in like a day and a half. Couldn't stop.
Yeah, the wife and I watched it in 2 days. I think we did 5 and 5.
It picks up steam so fast, and they're dude. I've watched 25-minute episode shows that feel twice as long as this.
I agree completely. Like you said at the very beginning, this was meant to just like get under a blanket and binge watch.
Yeah, and there's really no like filler or bullshit episodes for the most part.
No,
anything in it, I was like, well, that was superfluous. Could have cut that out. All right, favorite scene. So I have. Not necessarily a scene, but it's like a dynamic, and then I have a best scene. So I'll do the dynamic first. Basically, all the banter between Will Biddleheim and Joe. I think it was like a unique version of Stockholm Syndrome.
Yep.
Where Will is like somehow endeared to Joe for keeping him in a cage and actually letting him go. And in a weird way, when Joe let him go, I told my fiance, I was like, I don't think Will's going to snitch on him. I don't know why. I didn't think that Will's internet fiance would be real.
I didn't either.
That whole dynamic of them, and then him calling Will at the end, and Will actually like trying to help him, was so unique. And again, just not what I expected. That it was a really pleasant surprise. So their whole dynamic, I thought, was one of my favorite things. And in a weird way, when he let Will go, I was like, oh damn it, I kind of liked you guys like working together, even though one of you is like trapped in a mouse cage. How about you? What was your favorite?
It's hard for me to pinpoint a scene. Again, when we were talking about like a 10-hour, 10-episode show, I think I kind of go the same way. I think for me, it just has to be just almost the entirety of episode 8, the roller coaster ride. That was that whole acid trip episode, because it really did just make you feel like you were crazy.
I know.
Knowing what his stress level had to be, knowing that he was given 4 doses of acid, and so I was just like, I buckled in for that one. It was intense the whole time. His dynamic with 40 is like, it's up there. Like I agree with you with Will and Joe, but the 40 dynamic, 40, I like went from hating to really liking to being really annoyed with to like
I was all over with him
more at the end. Yeah. And so the whole breakdown of them when they're on acid together in that hotel room, you just felt almost all of the tension that Joe was feeling the whole time. And that episode as a whole, ending with the cliffhanger of seeing Delilah's dead body, and you almost feel just as helpless as Joe did about not knowing what just happened, because you saw all the events transpire, but it made no sense. And so it's hard to pinpoint one exact scene, but I just love the entirety of the last like 30 minutes of that episode.
Yeah, if I had to pick one specific scene, it would be at the end when Love reveals to him that she killed Delilah.
Oh my God, Joe's face! What the fuck?
I was gonna say that the tweets and the memes that have come from that, where it's like Joe murders 11 people across 1.5 seasons. Love kills 1 person for Joe, and Joe's like, "You're sick. I don't know if I can be with you like that." I was like, God, during a very intense moment.
But it's great because it does pinpoint, like, because we do, as the protagonist, kind of root for Joe. And we, for that moment, are like, oh my God, that bitch is crazy. Right? Because you do say that, but you're like, of course, when you actually look at it, you're like, no, that's not the story at all. But that's the beauty of storytelling. It does make you feel what Joe is feeling in that moment.
And it shows you his warped reality, because in his mind, everyone he's killed either had to, or it was like a total accident.
Deserved it, yeah.
The fact that she would purposely slit someone's throat, he's like, I don't know, man, you're nuts. This bitch crazy.
It does show how fucked up he really is.
And in a weird, and again, dude, this is like just the strength of the writers, like how the characters you root for. In a weird way, I was like kind of hoping Candace would get fucking killed. She was just annoying. I don't know what it was. She was doing the right thing. She's like been horribly
It's the beauty of storytelling. It's literally what made Dexter so great when it first started, was you put anyone as a protagonist. This is how our brains work. We follow anyone around, we'll start sympathizing with them. It doesn't matter who they are. You give us their perspective, and all of a sudden we start. I remember I had a book as a little kid. It was a play on the Three Little Pigs, but it was from the wolf's perspective.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a really cool book about the whole thing was a misunderstanding. The wolf was sick, and that's why he was sneezing and blowing the houses down. He just wanted a cup of sugar, and he was going to his neighbor's house, and the pigs were being dicks and not letting him have some sugar. And it was this whole thing. And I just remember like really enjoying that and being like, well, now I like the wolf instead of the pigs. And that's the beauty of storytelling, that's the fact that you can literally be rooting for Joe. You can be rooting for Dexter. You can be rooting for these killers. And no, it doesn't make it okay in real life. I always like the arguments people get online, like, how can you root for Joe? I'm like, it's not real life. That's why I can root for Joe.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, you accept that he has extremely mentally flawed. He does not see himself for who he really is. And that's the beauty of why we enjoy the show. Because he is deranged.
Well, and the nice thing about this season, we didn't even really get into this, but maybe we will in theories, but we got to learn why he's so mentally ruined because of his upbringing.
Yeah.
Although there's still a lot
he
of
has to like take care and protect everyone.
Right. And his mother always prioritized, men over him. So I think that's obviously skewed his image of relationships. All right, to close it out, and this is probably going to be the best part, theories and questions going forward. So I have 2 quick questions I'll ask, and then I know you've probably done a little bit more research on Reddit and the internet than I have, so I'm interested to hear what you found. My first question is, in season 3, which I'm assuming we got Penn Badgley kind of let slip in an interview that they've been greenlit and are filming season 3 very soon. So the first thing I'm wondering is, what will Ellie do? Obviously, she is not happy, to say the least, that Joe was directly responsible for Delilah's death. And she's begrudgingly taking his money, even though she had to restart her whole life because of him. And it seemed like in that postcard that she sent him, it's just it's like a business transaction relationship now. She wants nothing to do with him. She said, just send more money next month or whatever.
Yeah.
So will she do something to out Joe, you think, in season 3? Will she seek revenge? Will she even be a character? I wonder.
I really hope she is, just because I really enjoyed her as an actress and I really enjoyed her character. She was probably the only person on the entire show that just was a straight character, just absolutely a good person in their whole, just called everything for what it was, spoke nothing but truth. She was a breath of fresh air in a world between New York and LA of really frustrating fake ass people and obviously murderers and child molesters. But she, I just really enjoyed her as a kid, as a character. I have a theory, that she will play a role in season 3. I think she was just too big of a hit. They can't ignore her. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling Will Bettelheim will be involved in some way as season 3. We have 2 people out there now. Last season ended with 1 person out there knowing who Joe really was, and that was Candace, and she was involved in season 2. Now we have 2 people who are, not including Love, obviously. Now we have 2 people who know exactly what Joe is, and that's Ellie and that's Will Bettelheim.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure they'll both play some role, but Ellie to me just seems like too big of a loose end to ignore in season 2. All right,
and sorry, really quickly. She obviously has been shown that she comes from her sister. They do due diligence. They do their research. They like digging up dirt on people, and they have no problem outing them. She's still young, and once she has her footing, why wouldn't she do something to get back at Will?
Yeah,
or
what does
Joe?
she have?
Sorry,
what does she have to lose? She already had to. Yeah. She already had to restart her whole life because of him. I mean, the big question that will lead into theories out there is, who is Joe's neighbor at the end of the season? And a popular theory that I've seen is that it will be his mother, and they purposely moved out there. Now, whether that is true or whether she will recognize him in season 3, maybe he moved out there to fuck with her because of how she mistreated him as a child, which we still don't know exactly how that story ends.
Yeah.
But that's a popular theory that I've seen. Do you think that will be someone we've already met or that we know, or is it just the next a long line of women that Joe meets that ends up corrupting his life again?
I personally believe the neighbor is just a red herring. Like, it's not actually about the neighbor. I think it's a symbol that Joe is never going to be satisfied. he lives in such an idealistic mindset that he always is looking for the perfect woman. And I think I said this to you, on paper, him and Love are perfect for each other, right? They're both psychotic murderers, but he doesn't want an imperfect girl who is perfect for him. He wants this quote unquote perfect girl who doesn't exist. Nobody exists like that, right? So his hunt will never be over. Even if Guinevere Beck fell in love with him, he would have eventually moved on. Even if Candace had fell in love with him, he would have moved on. So I don't know if it's necessarily the neighbor. I think it's to show that he is not satisfied. The whole ending about his Siberia doesn't have to be cold. He is in personal hell right now. I think it was for him to show that he is going to keep doing what he's doing. He still thinks he's being a good guy, and he's going to be the predator he is. Now, I very well could be wrong, and the neighbor could be his mom. I've read that theory. I think that's really interesting if they do that. Does that mean they're going to be open with Love and be like, hey, that's my mom next door? So that would be a weird, or kind of dynamic they can follow through. Or is it going to just be a new love interest? I noticed that she did have a ring on her hand.
Yeah,
so she's married. So, if he's going to go after a married woman, we haven't seen that yet. He hasn't gone out. He's always gone after technically available people. So, does that mean he murders the husband because the husband's in the way?
That could be an interesting new wrinkle to it, yeah. And obviously,
and Love is already knows who he is.
Yeah. Her being pregnant and her
husband
mom living
dies
with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you bring that up, the first part about Joe, because the thing that I think makes this show so unique, it's not some guy getting obsessed with a girl and then he can't have her and he goes crazy. He's gotten both of the girls in both the seasons, like Beck and Love. And then he just is insane. So it doesn't work out.
Right. He had Beck until Beck realized he was a murderer. Like she found stash of
in his
teeth. Like he had her.
It's
like,
so
stop keeping your shit around.
Right. It's like he's his own. He just can't get out of his own way.
Well, I mean, Love, in this season, he literally had used tampons in the room. I don't know if you caught that. In that box. He has used tampons in there. And Love pulls it out, looks at it, and kind of gives a shrug like, interesting, respect. Like, they are both perfect for, that's like an unbelievable level of just fucked up. So he absolutely can win these people over. Love's just on another level with the sickness, but that's the problem. He's going to get himself into trouble. He accidentally murders the husband, and then what happens? Love is going to be suspicious of him if the husband next door dies, right? Because she knows who he is, and if he does anything to her, he cheats on her or starts pursuing another woman, Love will happily kill him.
And I believe her mom is living with them too, and she gave Joe a really kind of cold greeting when he came back.
Yeah.
So obviously, he's responsible for 40 dying. So
that's how I took it. I took it. She's going to be suspicious of Joe now too. I don't know how long they can keep this going. I mean, the biggest issue, I always say the quote from Batman: "You either die a hero or you live yourself long enough to become the villain." Right? Dexter absolutely lived too long and became the villain. Dexter was probably one of the top-rated shows for the longest time in the first 4 seasons, and then just had it's a joke now on the internet what ended up happening to Dexter. People make fun of that show. People will still say the show ended at season 4 even though it went 4 more seasons. This has a feeling to me, as much as I'm enjoying it, how far can they actually push it? Because if they go 5-6 seasons, then I think it gets really stale really quickly, and they're absolutely doing things that are so over the top. I think this has to end relatively soon in 1 or 2 seasons. The question is, if it stays as popular, will Netflix actually kill it, or will the writers say, no, we have one story to tell? I have a feeling they're going to milk it as long as they can, so this will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'd almost like them to green light, all right, you have 2 more seasons to wrap this up. Do what you can do with it. If you have a theory about who that is at the end of season 2, or what's going to happen, please comment below or tweet at us at Bro4Squad. Another theory I have, this is not something crazy, but the baby is Milo's. The Australian guy. And when Joe finds that out, it's going to be a huge catalyst.
So you don't think everyone's laughing about that baby being their sicko serial killer baby. And then I think I sent you the memes. This was like one of the top posts on the You subreddit, which was a photo from How I Met Your Mother saying, and that kid's is How I Met Your Mother, like Joe telling his kids, and the kids have a shocked face. Like, what? My parents are murderers?
Why did you give us all that information?
I have a question for you. So in the climax of the last episode, when 40 is confronting Joe and Love, and he tells Love, "You're not going to be a good mother. I know everything for years. I've been sitting on it. I've been suffering for what you've done and all these things." It made it seem like he knew that Love was the one that killed the au pair, but
yeah,
obviously he was on acid and knew he thought he killed her, so that wasn't it. Do you think like maybe Love poisoned her or her dead husband? Like maybe he knew about that? Like, did you have any theories on what he was talking about?
Yeah, I was confused because I didn't know if him on acid giving that speech to Joe was just to fuck with him.
Right.
Or if he actually thinks that's the case. But I definitely think she had something to do with her husband dying. Her husband essentially said like he didn't want to bring kids into this world. She's a cook or a baker, and he gets some sort of like stomach cancer. I don't know. It all just seems too related to not be related, you know?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if we find out more about that next season too.
That would be super interesting if she tells Joe like I've killed my husband before, I'll do it again or something like that. Would be super interesting. And the thing about it being Milo's baby, she could use that and just throw it in Joe's face whenever it's convenient for her.
I mean, it's gonna be obvious if the baby comes out with an Australian accent.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, like, good eye, mate.
Good
Oh
gawk.
my god.
Why did he? I don't think that's how accents work. Well, you're just wrong about
it.
That.
Absolutely does. Come on, man.
That's really all I have. I mean, the way that this season ended, there's so many different ways that they can go. Because even just them being in suburbia is in and of itself kind of a new. They've changed the locales now all 3 seasons, and I think that's to keep the show fresh. It's risky in terms of narrative perspective. Like, what if people don't like where we're at? But at least gives you like a new, I guess, canvas to paint on.
And he's getting more and more uncomfortable, right? New York was his home. He worked in a bookstore. It was his domain. Then he moved to LA. Now he's in an even worse place in LA, the LA suburbs. You know,
like
so
basically.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and that's what's going to be interesting to watch is does he kind of unravel out of his element? Like now it's his Love's domain. Like she's got the kid, she's got the house, she's got her own family life. That's what she's always wanted. And how is he going to react to all of this? And I think that's the interesting dynamic that's going to follow in season 3 is really how much he's able to going to be himself and how much is he trapped as this fake dad suburbite thing kind of guy.
And even if he is himself, I think himself is still a serial killer. So it's not things will be copacetic and all will be well.
As our favorite serial killer will say, there will be blood.
That's true.
There will be blood in season 3.
I'm excited, and I think we should get some tangible news pretty soon. Usually after a season drops and everybody's like binged it, they like to give you a little bit of information on when we might see the show again.
I saw something, and I think I told you this. I saw something on Reddit that says this was already the 5th most watched or maybe selected show on Netflix for the year. So in the way it ended, there's in my head, there is 0% chance there's not a season 3.
Right. The only question is when we'll get it.
Right. Yeah. It might be a year and a half, might be 2 years.
Yeah. I'm glad this had the cult following that it did because I loved season 1, and now that other people enjoy it as well, I think it means that we'll get.
It took a while. Like season 1 was a slow burn for people to realize. I think it took a long time for people to kind of recognize that it was a really fun show, and I think a Lifetime thing had a lot to do with it. But now everyone is on board.
Yeah. I'm in. All right, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Tweet at us or comment below your theories on what's going to happen in You Season 3. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. If you type in Bro Force Squad, that's 3 separate words. You'll find us there. Type those same 3 words into letterboxd.com to read all of our reviews. Check out all of our content on our website, broforcesquad.com. And at the top, there is a survey. If you fill it out about our podcast, we'll give you a shout out on our next show. Till then, Cycli and I have to go build this giant glass cage. Not to trap anyone, though.
Never. We never.
It's a piece of art. It's not like a prison.